Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call the meeting, the York Regional Police Services Board meeting to order. The first thing is on behalf of the board, we acknowledge that York Region is located on the traditional territory of many indigenous peoples, including the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, here in Wendat, and the Métis people. In the treaty territories of Haudenosaunee, Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and the Williams Treaty First Nation. Today, this area is home to many diverse indigenous people, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island, that's First Nation closest to the First Nation community. So members, is there any disclosure of interest? Not seeing any confirmation of public meetings. Thanks, Norma and Mariel. Any comments on the minutes? All those in favor? Against? The motion's carried. The first thing, members of the board, the presentation 5.1, inclusive policing action plan 2023-2024. Chief, go ahead, sir.
Yes, Chairman. Through you, I'll introduce the team in just a second. I did want to make another quick announcement as well. As I'm very proud to be able to report to the board. We have hired our new executive director of People, Wellness, and Talent here today with us. Vanessa Aguiar has accepted the position with us. She's going to serve the board and our organization very well over for many years to come. So really proud to be working with Vanessa. Well done, Vanessa. And without further ado, I will introduce the team here, who's going to give you the board a presentation on our 2023 to 2025 Inclusive Policing Action Plan. So I'll turn it right over to Inspector Chibat and Andrew Snowball, our Equity and Inclusion Specialist, both working in our Professionalism, Leadership, and Inclusion Office, which you've heard me talk about before, the newer office that's been stood up and reports directly to the Chief's office. So, gentlemen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Chief, and members of the board. We're at 8.4. Board, once the presentation's over, it's regarding 8.4 on your agenda. Go ahead, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for the introduction, and good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. We'd like to thank you for the opportunity allowing us to present to you an overview of the 2023 to 2025 Inclusive Policing Action Plan. Over the course of the next 15 minutes, Andrew and I, will provide you with an overview of the Inclusive Policing Action Plan. We'll take a look back at some of the key accomplishments from 2023. We'll also take a look ahead into 2024 and 2025 and speak about some of the planned activities that are contained within the plan. And as we near the end of the presentation, we'll take a few moments to speak specifically about 5 high priority areas of work related specifically to racial equity and anti-racism. And so at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Equity and Inclusion Specialist, Andrew Snowball.
Thank you, Inspector Bat, and good morning, everyone. Thank you. So one of the first things that we really wanted to highlight as we move into the second Inclusive Policing Action Plan is this is an informed plan. And as the board would be familiar, the work we're doing in inclusive policing in York Regional Police is informed by our community partners, informed by 3 key reports that we've received. One of them being an internal anti-Black racism working group report, one of them being the YRPSB's report on anti-Black racism, and as well as the Enhanced Community Engagement and Community Policing report by Foster and Associates. So as we've been engaging with partners and consultants with this board, we really want to highlight that this iteration of the plan is informed by a lot of key perspectives from equity deserving people, from our own members, and from stakeholders and partners in the community. So as we recognize that everyone in our organization and everyone that we serve ought to feel included in this report and in the work that we're doing. With that in mind, we have a shared goal, which is above all else, our goal is to enrich inclusive practices for our members and the community. Our belief is that each member of York Police owns this plan, and it's our hope that everyone can see themselves reflected in it. So as we get into the meat of our Inclusive Policing Action Plan, as the last iteration had, we have pathways to IDEA, and we're calling that an IDEA for those here is inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And you can see these concepts reflected in some of these pathways. So under diversity, we recognize that we value diversity. For equity, we're implementing equitable systems and practices to ensure a culture of inclusion. Under the realm of training and education, which is distinct from our last action plan, we develop skills and knowledge to improve our day-to-day conduct and decision-making. And really importantly for us around accessibility, we support members of all abilities. So as we continue to do the work, we recognize, as was the case with our last plan, as is the case now and will be in the future, there are gaps in the work we do relating to equity and inclusion. We hope that this plan addresses many of them, but we recognize that there's still quite a bit of work to do. So as always, the core of this plan remains equity focused, and as our organization tries to do, put people first. So in the work of our action plan, we have these different areas of focus under each pathway. And it's important to remember that our pathways are addressing those key concerns. We've heard from our community members, we've heard from our YRP members and from consultants and experts that in the realm of diversity, we really want to focus this plan on data collection and recognizing that as we collect data about our members and our employment practices and their experiences, this is critically important, but we also want to dive into the experiences of community members and how they're receiving our services as a police service. Under the realm of equity, we want to highlight that not everybody's having the same experience working in the York Regional Police. So we want to perform a system-wide equity audit, which we've retained a consultant to do. And this will highlight some barriers and key decision-making practices that we can become a more inclusive police service. Under the realm of training and education, as we've retained experts and academics and consultants, we're really trying to lead our system as far as anti-racism, Indigenous awareness training. And under the realm of accessibility, we really want to be a police service that understands accessibility, understands the needs of our members and our community partners. So with that being said, our accomplishments in 2023 really highlighted accomplishment of key long-standing goals that we had as an organization and points to the work that we have ahead of us. So with the diversity aspect, we have a consultant engaged for our talent management system. This is going to be a really key tool for us to track who our members are and what their experiences are. In the realm of equity, we have that aforementioned equity audit that we'll be launching this year, but we've retained last year our consultant from Toronto Metropolitan University. We have also in the realm of training and education been working through finalizing our addressing racism and racial discrimination policing training. A lot of the components of that training are based in those 3 reports we received from our community and from our internal members. A lot of the subject matter around addressing racism is really reflective of what we've been hearing from the community. And in the realm of accessibility, our internal support network is called Working with Restrictions. They have launched and they've been doing a lot of good work in our organization, as well as our newly formed reintegration unit is addressing accessibility. And those are our key accomplishments for 2023. Looking forward into 2024, we recognize a lot of factors go into our work. Some of our 2024 accomplishments have already begun in 2023, and some of the things that we hoped to achieve last year have lingered into this year. But we also recognize that each of these pathways, while distinct, are connected to each other, and there's a lot of overlap there. So as we work on the aspect of diversity in our talent management system, we really recognize that data is so important. Knowing who our members are is so important, and understanding what their experiences are so we can affect change. One of the things that we're doing in the realm of equity is race and identity-based data collection. This board is familiar with the use of force. This is one of the aspects that we're looking to collect information about more comprehensively across our organization. And in the realm of accessibility, we've kicked off an accommodations project, which is a really huge effort for us to better understand and support our members with restrictions and different accessibility needs. I'll turn it back over to Chi.
Thank you, Andrew. I'll spend the remainder of this presentation to provide the board with key updates on our 5 high priority areas of work related specifically to racial equity and anti-racism. By way of reminder, at the June 2023 board meeting, we heard from Dr. Lauren Foster from Foster and Associates, who provided the board with his presentation of his findings and recommendations around his report that was titled Enhanced Community Engagement and Community Policing, a review of York Regional Police Services anti-racism practices. And so that report contained a number of recommendations. In addition to those recommendations, there were recommendations received by this board from a report that was commissioned by the board and was authored by Dr. Akwasi Uwasu-Bempe. In addition to that, as Andrew had mentioned previously, there was another report that was authored by York Regional Police members as part of our anti-Black racism internal working group. And so from those recommendations, we were able to review all of the recommendations and theme them together because a number of themes did emerge. And from those themes, 5 areas of work were identified that were high priority areas of work that we needed to work on to move towards racial equity in the workplace. And those areas of work are authoring a racial equity action plan, conducting an equity audit, building out a race and identity-based data collection framework, building out and implementing mandatory anti-racism or addressing racism training, and the creation of the position of an ombudsperson and hiring somebody for that role who would then be involved in the confidential and independent intake of complaints from our members related to allegations of racial discrimination or other workplace conflict and human rights issues. What you'll hear now and what I'll do now is go over some of these high priority areas of work. And back in 2023, in June, we came to the board and provided an update on these are the areas that we're going to work on. And since that time, in the last 10 months, we've made considerable progress in each of these areas. And we're going to go through a little bit of those now. All 3 of the reports recommended that the board and York Regional Police create and implement an anti-racism and race equity strategy. And we're calling that a racial equity action plan. Also contained within the reports was a need for the community to be involved in the building out of this strategy and this plan. Because one of the things that the report had highlighted is that we needed to move past community informing and into community engagement. Community informing, meaning that we would normally, or we would build out a plan of this sort and then inform the committee or inform the community rather of this is what we are doing. But in fact, what we needed to move toward is bring the community together and work with them every step of the process as we build out this strategy. So therefore, building out a committee with members of our community and York Regional Police was a key first step. And we're happy to report that in the fall of 2023, York Regional Police, along with the community, formed a group that's appropriately named the Committee for Action on Racial Equity. And it's comprised of YRP members and members of our community that represent the diverse nature of York Region. And that committee has been working behind the scenes to co-create agendas and work plans and a mandate as well as terms of reference. And this May, at the upcoming meeting for the CARE committee, they will be reviewing a draft racial equity action plan, which will then be finalized as you work through that process. All 3 of the reports also called for the need to conduct an equity audit. And an equity audit would be to take a look at York Regional Police's policies, programs, and procedures and try and identify areas of systemic barriers to racial equity and inclusion. As we all know, when we're working in the area of trying to identify systemic barriers, it can often be hard because systemic barriers can be nuanced or subtle, especially to those working within those systems. And as Andrew had mentioned earlier, for that reason, we had sought to onboard experts to be able to come in and support us in conducting an unbiased and objective review of our programs, policies, and procedures. And after running a competitive procurement process, we're pleased to announce that we've onboarded consultants from Toronto Metropolitan University's Ted Rogers Diversity Institute, and they'll be coming on board and be working with us and supporting us to be able to conduct this audit. It's also important to note that these consultants have been onboarded and they've received a number of our policies and procedures, and they've already commenced the review. So the work in this space has already been started. I do want to point out that the equity audit will be looking at 2 things. They'll be looking at employment practices as well as operational service delivery. And for that reason, community engagement as well as member engagement on this program are going to be critically important. And this program is set to be a 12 to 18-month project, at which time the consultants will be coming back to York Regional Police with their findings and their recommendations. And again, as Andrew had mentioned, all 3 of the reports had a similar theme with respect to race and identity-based data collection, and specifically the need to build out a framework in this space. The need to be able to collect, analyze, and report on race and identity-based data is extremely important, especially as we're trying to identify any gaps that may exist and be able to identify any disparities that may exist so we can then go back and address these. It also serves as a purpose that allows us to be able to go through and be able to check in on some of the initiatives and the programs that we have in place now. And are we actually moving the needle where we want to? So the data collection component is extremely important. And again, this work is extremely complex as it combines data collection and data science along with the equity component or the equity lens. And we're pleased to announce that we have partnered with the Ministry of Citizenship and Multiculturalism's Anti-Racism Directorate to secure funding to be able to onboard an expert that is going to support us in this work. And once again, you've heard the name before, but I'll mention it again. We are now onboarding Dr. Akwasi Uwasu-Bempe, who is an expert in this space, to come in and support us in this work. And with that, again, that will be a 2-year project as well. And as mentioned, our CARE committee will be heavily involved in this work as we work through the community consultation piece in this space. We've heard training as a common theme as well as we work towards racial equity and being an anti-racist organization. And for that, there was a recommendation that we implement a full-day mandatory training program for all members of York Regional Police. And we're pleased to announce that we have operationalized that, and we have now officially launched our full-day mandatory Addressing Racism training program. And with that, just by way of a reminder, this training program was co-created by human rights experts, Fosters and Associates, in collaboration with members of York Regional Police and members of our community. And we've now run a number of sessions, and we're going to continue to run these sessions until the fall of 2025, at which time we anticipate all 2,400 plus members of York Regional Police will take part in this in-person learning. In addition to that, one of the things that we've also identified as an area that we wanted to focus in on is being able to assist and support those that are involved in workplace investigations where there may be allegations of discrimination or bias. These types of workplace investigations can be uniquely complex. Workplace investigations on their own right are complex, but when you add in a layer or add in the nuance of discrimination or bias, again, there's added complexity to it. So for that reason, we partnered with a law firm, Rubin Tomlinson, to be able to offer full-day training for members of York Regional Police that are involved in workplace investigations. And just this past month, we were able to run a session with members from our Professionalism, Leadership, and Inclusion Office, our Labor Relations area, as well as our Professional Standards Bureau. And we also included members from our police association to take part in this program. And with regard to training, our training efforts to be able to develop and be able to support our members in their learning and growth in this space, we also have been working at this since 2022 and onward by way of offering our members micro learning sessions or learning forums where we can take a deeper dive into particular areas of racial discrimination and racial equity. And in 2022 and 2023, we provided our members with micro learning sessions and learning forums related specifically to anti-Black racism, Indigenous cultural competence. And this coming May, we'll be running sessions related specifically to anti-Asian hate. And finally, in June, we'll also be running sessions that are focusing in on the intersectionality of race and religion, and we'll be focusing in on anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And finally, the 5th high priority area of work was to establish a new internal complaint process, one which is independent and confidential and would handle and support investigations related to racism and other human rights matters. To conduct this work, York Regional Police created the position of an ombudsperson who will be working within the Professionalism, Leadership, and Inclusion Office, and that office reports directly into the Chief of Police. With this position now created, we've engaged Boyden Executive Recruitment Services to assist us in the recruitment of an ombudsperson. Once hired, this member will oversee the intake of confidential complaints surrounding human rights matters and workplace conflict. And I know over the course of the 5 high priority items that we spoke about, they were presented as 5 individual programs and projects. But the reality is they are all interconnected and support and inform one another. We are very pleased with the progress that's been made over the last 10 months. We effectively have taken recommendations from within reports, and in every single one of the cases, we have operationalized them and have taken considerable action to putting them into implementation. And at this time, we'd like to open up the floor for any questions.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, and a great presentation and a job well done. And we want to thank you on behalf of the board. Linda?
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, everyone through you. Thank you, Inspector. Just I want to go back and just a tad closer. Anyway, with respect to the ombudsman or ombuds, I think you called it ombudsperson. It's getting old school. Anyway, I guess my concern, and I think you answered it at the end, because I was writing notes as you were going through it, is the concern of independence. And I believe through the chair, you were saying that this person will report directly to the chief.
Thank you for the question, and Mr. Chair, through you. So the ombudsperson will be working within the Professionalism, Leadership and Inclusion Office, and they will be reporting directly into the Executive Director of the Professionalism Office, who is a lawyer. And by that virtue, they have a other college or an additional college to be able to, where they have their ethics as per the college as well. And so that's where that confidentiality comes in, because the person is also legal counsel.
Through the chair, I don't disagree. I was more concerned about the independence of it with it. And I'm looking at the chief and he seems fine with it. I was just a tad concerned. I'm going to use, for example, an integrity commissioner, which municipalities have. I mean, our integrity commissioner reports directly to council. So I think that there's no middle layer of shoving in and sort of weaving people in the wrong direction. So I just wanted to ensure there was a very clear line of independence so that the person can be challenged. I mean, on our reports today, we have some things which I can't because they're enclosed, but I just wanted to make sure that it was clean. But the other thing too was and thank you for that. And that answers my question. And if the chief seems happy, then I'm fine with it. The issue with workplace inspections and investigations, that would be conducted strictly by the ombudsperson? Or do you have a team that would do that? Once again, I'm looking for independence.
Maybe I can jump in here through you, Chair. Thank you for the question. So imagining this office as an independent office reporting to me, that's where the ombudsperson sits. If it becomes something that requires a full investigation, it will go to People, Wellness and Talent, Vanessa's area. On the, harassment, sexual harassment, any types of events like that. What we're intending to do with the ombudsperson is to be proactive about these matters of incivility and workplace conflict and have that entity as a resource to the organization. So we as an organization can know when things from time to time are bubbling up in a big organization like ours. We want to know about it sooner than later. So having that independence, that phone call they can make without going directly to an investigation, whether it be from People, Wellness and Talent or our professional standards on the sworn side under misconduct, they have a neutral place to go. And all of those offices have a dotted line to the professionalism office, and they meet regularly to discuss what's going on in the organization. So this is really modernizing a way to deal with a lot of what we see in many organizations now. By the time it becomes an investigation, it's probably too late. And there were signs well before that we could have got involved, where we could have got it in front of this. That's really where we're trying to go here as an organization. So if it's a short answer, if it's an investigation, it will still be addressed as it normally would be through People, Wellness and Talent. The intent is to deal with it well before it gets there.
Thank you. Through the chair, just to follow up on that, just with respect, I believe the inspector mentioned something about hiring external law firms to deal with this. I'm not a big fan of that. I think we have enough ponies in the stable to, is that also for independence? I just wish that we could have someone in-house, because of course we know the difference in cost to the service.
Yeah, as it relates to, I can ask Vanessa to speak as well, but as it relates to many of the investigations, the majority of our investigations are done internally. They're done by our own staff as far as labor relations goes. Professional standards is done by all of our members. There's a specific time, without getting into it here, where we need a completely independent agency to come in, and we do hire from time to time, but it's very rare.
I know I've read that for today. Maybe we can discuss it in
Yeah,
closed session.
for sure.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you,
you.
Chief and Inspector.
Any further comments? Mariel, then Walter. Mariel? You're on. Yep.
I'm on, okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank a beautiful presentation, a lot of things that I heard, which makes sense to me. I'm a simple man. We have the law of the land that protects any individual. let it be white, black, yellow, or whatever. And the implementation of our law is by the police. What do we have all this other bureaucracy to create more and more so that we have no time to spend on the law of the land and implement what we all know that we have to do? I'm very confused. And I think I've been around now for 60 years, and I have dealt with everybody, all kinds, and we never have any issue, any problem. It seems that bureaucracy or intellectual people is creating more of the problem, but bringing it out there and create new segment, new section. And I'm all, actually, we're going the slippery slope. To me, we have the law of the land, police are implementing that, and the law of the land protects everybody, as far as I know now. If we have to change something there, then I think that's where we should go. But to create, we're never gonna finish. We're gonna have just people going back and forth, and will be we won't protect anybody, and we will not, the police won't have the time to look after all these things. And the implementation of the law of the land is going backwards. Thank you. That's my opinion, please.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we're okay. It's just, Mario would like to state, yeah, go ahead, chief.
Yeah, maybe I'll just make a comment. I hear you completely. I understand. What we're dealing with is not just at York Regional Police. This is something that is a bit of a phenomenon across the country where workplace conflict is real. We have an obligation under the Ontario Health and Safety Act to make sure our workplaces are safe for everybody. That is the law that we have to make sure that we address appropriately. We have seen many organizations, including ours, spend a lot of time on workplace investigations, right? And I can tell you my own assessment over 4 years as a chief is at the conclusion of these investigations, nobody's happy. Nobody feels like it's been addressed appropriately. In many cases, and I'm generalizing here because sometimes it does work out, but which sort of allows us to look at this from how do we modernize a process so we're not spending as much time on these investigations, so we can resolve matters before they become investigations, because we're obligated to make sure our workplaces are safe. We feel this is, and I understand what you're saying, it seems like we're creating more bureaucracy. But this situation, this is not going away anytime soon. And if we don't get in front of it and do something about it, we'll continue to go down this road and not resolve the issues. It seems like just yesterday we came together as human beings and worked out our problems. Somehow we've gotten to a place where people are not as comfortable doing that anymore. And without continuing to spin our wheel in that area, we wanted to put something in place that we believe is really going to change the narrative and change the process and get us to a better place in our profession and in society, to be quite honest. So the last thing I wanted to say before moving on is I'm extremely proud of the team here. We all are. The work they're doing is cutting edge. I know many of you have been involved in it through the board, and we've been talking about this for 3 years now. But it's more important to get this right than to be quick out of the gate with this type of work. And it's very deep, meaningful work. And I just wanted to really publicly thank these gentlemen and the team, the entire team over there, because as you can see, what they've presented, I believe, is truly outstanding work. And I think it's going to serve this board and our organization well for many, many years to come when we eventually get to where we need to go. So thank you so much. Thanks,
you.
Chair. Appreciate it.
Walter.
First, I'd like to start by commending you on both your presentation and the work done to date. And also recognizing the fact that a critical point of your presentation that you accept, we all accept this as an ongoing process. We're not there yet. A specific question is with respect to the care committee. The committee headed by my friend, Ms. McCullough, the Anti-Black Racism Committee, has a number of very distinguished members of the community. Are they or have they been invited to participate in the care committee? You know, over the number of years that we've been involved working on this project, and we've put a lot of time into this, I have been really inordinately impressed by the insights that have been offered, by the cultural and corporate knowledge they have brought to the table. And if they are not on the committee, I dare say the committee would be well served, that is the care committee, to give them the opportunity to participate and offer those insights. They were fundamentally important in hiring your new academic advisor. But they were equally important in generating the board's report that you're also including in this presentation. So I encourage you through my chair, Ms. McCullough, to address that issue if it has not been addressed.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for the question, and Mr. Chair, through you, there are a number of members that were part of the committee that is chaired by Ms. McCullough, members of York Regional Police that did some work with you folks, namely Inspector Colin Alexander. He is a member of the committee and one that is going to continue to move through the committee regardless of the position where he moves throughout the organization, recognizing that there's that corporate knowledge that he's able to bring to that. So he is one of the key members that are on that committee to bring over and be that dotted line back to some of the information that was learned and gleaned from the committee work that the board had put together. With respect to community members that are part of that committee, we pulled people from different aspects of or different locations within the community, particularly those that have and are doing work at the regional level within the city of Markham, the city of Vaughan, in the EDI space. So they sit on a number of those committees as well. And so that allows us to have a dotted line back to some of these other committees where there's that understanding of a lot of the work that's ongoing. Part of the things, or one of the things that we wanted to achieve with the care committee is setting a timeline on how long a member will be there and kind of stagger that. So that way we can continue to have that corporate knowledge continue to move on, but then be able to create a system and an approach to be able to bring new members on as well. So we have new fresh ideas coming on. So if some of those members that are within your committee that we haven't considered, more than happy to consider that as we move into the next phase of our committee selection.
Walter, anything else? Norma?
Okay, so there are a few other members that we could talk about another time that you should reach out to, who live in the community, who would be there probably long after I'm not available. So I also think that you should be reaching out to them. Inspector Alexander is a part of your service. However, other members that are in the community could be included in this care. Okay. And I might want to add, Chair, that if you had an independent body in the first place, the anti-Black racism force or task force, if you want to call it that, would not have been created, because I believe that these issues would have been dealt with 20 years ago. So this is something that you have to look at as long-term after this chief has retired and all of us have retired. You have to pass it down. It's a living document that should live beyond us. We're not going to see the end of harassment, anti-Asian sentiments, anti-Black sentiments anytime soon. People are always going to behave the way people behave. It's not just York Region Police Service. People, as long as we have people, we will have separate views on the same thing. Thank you.
You, and I agree with you, Norma, because we are working better than what we did years ago. We are trying to get a handle on, we're moving. Are we moving at a lightning speed? No, but we are moving but I agree with you too, that this is not going to end. And it is what people are. And it's hard to change them all, but you got to start somewhere. And I think that what we've got going forward with us, I think we've got a good start and we're working and we're listening. I think that's the main thing too, Norma. We are listening. Anything else, gentlemen, you want to add?
Yeah, just one thing, Chair. I think I 100% agree with your assessment on this has to be something continuing forward. I can tell you at this table and beyond us, the entire organization believes in this work, and this work will continue well beyond many of our years here. That is the intent. My hope is that it just becomes a way of being in the future. And the best evidence of great EDI work is when we don't ever require a committee to do it again, right? And I agree with you. We may never get there, which is the draw for continuing this work for many, many, many years to come. We can't undo 200 years of history overnight, but we can certainly keep our foot on the gas pedal, and that's what we intend on doing at YRP.
Well done. Okay, Walter, something else?
Just one quick follow-up. In our last meeting, we talked about the importance of institutionalization. And again, I commend both the work that's been presented today and obviously the service on the fact that you are in fact institutionalizing the ways and means to address these issues over time and on a go-forward basis. I think this is a really, really important step in resolving many of the concerns and issues, not only of Black officers, but of the community, the larger community, which we all represent and serve. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Walter. So we're going to get Norman to move it and second by Steve, that we move receipt of the presentation and support the board's the report of 8.4. Any further questions on it? 8.4. All those in favor? Against? That motion is carried. There are no deputations, members of the board. Communications, and then the 4 reports, except the 3 reports. Are there any questions on any of that at this time on the consideration adoption of the reports or the communication? Any questions? You get Mariel and Steve to move all the recommendations of the reports going forward. Is there? I must make sure I'm not moving too quickly. Any questions? Not seeing any. Okay. All those in favor? Against? The motion is carried. The next one, is there any unfinished business or other business anybody would like to bring forward to the board at this time? The open, Walter?
I received an inquiry from media regarding a report issued by CBC. That report addressed the issue of suspended members. And it was focused on the fact that according to the CBC report, a third of suspended members are, I can't quote this, potentially or allegedly involved in sexual assault or harassment of other members, including potentially female members in the service. I did not comment on that report. I said, I do not speak on behalf of the service and I do not speak on behalf of the board. However, this is in the public domain. There will be more questions addressed in this matter for obvious reasons because it is in the public domain and it is a reasonable inquiry. The essence of the question that was directed that I did not answer is, what is York Region's position on this? Where is York Region as a major and important police force that Toronto Police Service has taken steps to address these questions and concerns? Where is York Region on this? So I leave that as an open question, obviously directed to the chief.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Purchell, for the question. So as it relates to YRP, first off, let me just say that we take all matters of discipline extremely serious in this organization. And we have suspended officers where appropriate in the past, no different than any other police service. As it relates to YRP, we've had 52 officers suspended in the last 10 years. Okay. That's a very low number as it relates to, because, you know, that essentially we're talking about 5 officers per year. If you look at it as an average, sometimes it differs. Sometimes that changes depending. I think it's a reflection of the fact that we have good policy, we have excellent training, and we have members of our service that, remember, we're the 3rd large municipal service in the province, that our members adhere to the values of the organization, right? So what I would say is that the board should be comforted and the community should be comforted at the fact that we have a very low suspension rate of officers, and looking back, at least in the previous act, we suspend officers for serious, very serious matters, usually matters of criminality. So police are no different than the community. Officers make bad choices from time to time, and we deal with those matters appropriately. So we'll continue to be very professional in the area of what's been reported through the CBC article. But I would say, as it relates to the Greater Toronto area and the number of suspensions, and I think it was reported that we were the lowest in terms of capita, but, you know, without quoting it, I don't have the article in front of me, we're very low in relation to the number of suspensions, which tells me that the training, the service, the values of the organization, the onboarding of the right people into the job is happening here at YRP. So I would leave it there.
Sure. You're on. You're on.
So the quick follow-up, the second part of the question that was directed was specific concern about female officers and the fact that they are internally treated differently. Again, I did not answer that question. I said that that is a question that I'm sure that the service will have answers for. The big concern is something that we've all heard in the public domain, this thing called the blue wall. My off the record comment was, I said that this service is going to act in accordance with both legal and its community requirements. And that further questions should be directed to the public relations staff of the service if further questions or inquiries were there. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I expect those things are going to come. And it's important, obviously, that we be ahead of that as opposed to behind that.
So I would encourage, through you, Chair, I would encourage whomever you were speaking to contact our public relations, our communications and marketing section for sure. And we can provide some formal comment if required. But I want to address this issue around our female members. We treat everyone equitably and fairly and with the deepest of respect. And if a female member or a male member, it doesn't matter who comes forward with a complaint, it will be addressed appropriately. That's always been the commitment. That's always how we've operated. I can't change what happened 20 years ago right now, but I can certainly do the right thing from this point forward and from the time I've taken over. And I'm 100% confident we are taking the right steps when required. Is it going to be perfect? We can't deal with it if we don't know. So at the end of the day, when things get reported to our police service, we take the appropriate action and deal with it in a professional way.
Okay. Any further, Alter? Oh, I wasn't aware of this, what the CBC was asking, but I guess they're looking for anything, right? Going forward, it's an important item to go forward. But I believe the chief has stated where we are with it. So, yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Happy to. Good. Okay, members of the board, the next 10.1 is the upcoming events. The Yellow Brick House is next Wednesday. Is no, the Yellow Brick House, it says May 1st. It's Wednesday. Anybody going? Good. Stephen? Okay. And Norm, sorry. Yeah, Madeline's going? Sure. Okay. Okay, and then the York Regional Police Memorial, I will be attending on behalf of the board. Okay, good. And I won't be at the Ontario Police one. The recruit graduation, thank you for putting it back at the headquarters. That's great. Yeah, and I know you do listen. I know, thank you. Sorry, Karen, but I like the headquarters. Were you happy to call? I heard there was screaming and yelling, that chairman. And then appreciation night, members of the board, there is a table for the board. So hopefully, and some will be sitting somewhere else, yes?
Dean, I don't. Ballpark, I'm gonna look over through you to Karen Richards. I thought we gave up the board table for officers with respect to the Bellaria incident. And that we were gonna be placed somewhere else.
I think you have a different perspective, like a different airtime places to go, but I'm not sure Walter and Norma would have the same opportunity as you would have. To be invited to another table, so that I think.
No, I'm sitting at the head table, Chairman, through
But,
you.
yeah, with us, yeah,
Yeah, with you.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
but I'm just saying it would be a shame that if, well, maybe we could, all right, I just was trying to help out. I don't know.
Yeah, I
maybe
know.
Karen can fill in, because I believe that.
Karen?
Through you, Chair, the entire board will be seated at the head table.
Yeah,
And the board table will be used for any staff that want to attend, as
I
well as be
misunderstood.
filled. The rest of the seats will be filled because we have a large contingent of officers being recognized as part of the Valerio condo shooting.
Yeah.
good. I appreciate it. I misunderstood.
Yeah, no,
Good.
it's good. Yeah.
And the chief told me this morning, over 1,100 people coming.
As of this morning, 1,105.
1,105. Largest, very good. In Vaughan, of course. Okay. And don't forget the Police Week Open House, Community Safe Village, a great event for children to come. And if you can show up but you better tell Karen you're coming, because she can make sure you get a back road drive in or somehow. Because it is a very, very popular event. Right, Karen?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can tell you we already have had 620 people registered to attend that day.
So if you're going, go early. I think there's another event here regarding sexual violence. I have to come to speak at one here at 11, I think, or 10. So anyways, just an update. So members of the board, I'm going to ask Mario and Norma. You have something else? Sure, go ahead.
With apologies, I will be at the appreciation event, but I will be late. I've got a regimental event I must attend.
Oh, we'll hold
So
your
with
dinner.
apologies,
We'll hold your dinner
but I'll be there.
and we'll hold your seat. Yep. Oh, yeah, the conference, spring conference in June. Pardon? Go ahead, sure. Sorry.
That's okay. Through you, Chair. So I just want to let you know, for those attending, YRP, so Inspector Bott, myself, and two members from PLEO will be doing a presentation on the plan that you just saw presented this morning. But we'll be talking more about how the board got to where it is today. Because as you are aware from our education session, diversity plans are a requirement for boards, and there was a call out, and I kind of volunteered us to do so. I thought it's time we told our story.
Good for you. Well done. Okay, I know I'll be there just for the Monday. I'll drive up and drive back home. Okay, that's it. So, motion to go in camera. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Norma. Go in camera. Thank you. Something else? Okay, all those in favor? Against, the motion's carried. Now, just remember when we go in camera,